Well, it's been a challenging start to the growing season due to wet weather across Kansas and surrounding states, and really the western corn belt has been the area that it's been most problematic. So there have been some signs of maybe some positive signs that it hasn't been quite as wet, but yet I don't think we're out of the woods. It still looks like more rain is on the horizon. Over the last week, you can see the mixed signals here, mixed signs. Some areas to the near and up in the northeast part of the state near Manhattan, under a ½ inch of rain. Likewise, southeast, southwest, but look in the middle part here, we had 2 inches of rain. So highly variable. And so I guess sort of some signs of being more positive is that at least some areas weren't quite as wet. But when we look at the last 2 weeks, we can see a larger area of the state received that 2 inches, which is yellow, all the way up to 5 inches, which is red, of rainfall. So we're still really running on the dry side. Now, from a bigger perspective, larger perspective, what you can see here is you can see parts of Iowa and parts of Illinois up to Nebraska have received a bit less rain, but this area here from, or should I say South Dakota, from Nebraska, Kansas, into Oklahoma has been continued on the wet side. So right now across the state, dew points are generally in the 60s. Temperatures over the last week, due to the rain, you can see the coolest temperatures at blue was about 6 degrees below normal, and that's due to the rain-cooled air. The entire state was below normal, so not only are we dealing with extra rainfall, too much rainfall in many spots, we're dealing with now cooler temperatures. And what we need, hot and dry. Now, there's one area in the U.S. that I've certainly been looking at for that hot and dry, and it's not Kansas. It's down here in South Texas. So soils remain quite wet in spots. There is variability. Some areas we see that have recently not got as much rain have dried out a bit. Other areas are still quite wet. Rivers are also running high in some parts of the state, especially tributaries into the Missouri in the eastern part of the state. Now, temperatures have warmed into the 60s statewide, with 70s bumping up into the southern border. Okay, so here's the forecast when we look forward. First of all, we see this dip in the jet stream, that's the area in blue, pushes off to the west, and at the same time we start to build a ridge of high pressure moving in from the south. Now, that ridge of high pressure is generally associated with warm and dry. So when we look forward here, we can see the warm air tries to push up here in week 2. It just doesn't get that far. It gets into parts of the eastern corn belt. It just doesn't get into Kansas. And what I don't like is I don't like this coupling of cool air and warm air here, because that usually sets up a boundary, and that boundary serves as a focus of rainfall. Now, we'll see some of that this week. Another week of sort of mixed conditions. Much of the state, not so much rain, but the southeast part of the state, a lot of rain. So we can see the far southeast part of Kansas, the potential 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches of rain, but then tapering off as we get into the central and especially the west and northwest, not all that much. We look a little bit forward here as far as hazards in the 6 to 10 day. Right now it looks like the heaviest rain could shift a bit further south. And if we look at the 6 to 10 day temperature, you can see you're right on the boundary here. So I think we're looking at temperatures a little bit above or a little bit below normal. Then as we get into the 8 to 14 day, well, that warmer air gradually works its way up, but it's nothing all that impressive. It's maybe a little bit above normal. Precipitation right now, the good news is that in the 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14, I don't necessarily see any excessive rainfall, but the best bet, if we do get some, would be continuing the east. So it looks like really this earlier this week through the middle part of the week, that southeast part of the state, maybe after that we could gradually go a bit on the a little bit warmer temperatures. So we look at the Manhattan forecast, you can sort of see here when we have this chance of rain, it keeps temperatures in the 80s, and then we reach up to near 90 degrees late in the week towards the weekend, and a lot of variability. Every time we get a chance of rain, it keeps those temperatures down. And like I said, if you look at almost right through the period here into the middle part of the week and even beyond, more days than not, a chance of rain. But right now, the high chance days of rain are going to be a little bit more localized and not as many. So just a daily chance of rain. I wanted to show you here, not all that far to our south in Texas, this is midweek. We're looking at heat index readings almost off the chart, near 115 or maybe even higher. So overall, because of the wet conditions, we're going to have continued vulnerabilities. I think there's going to be a chance of rain this week, more days than not, but it's going to be mainly over the southeast part of the state. Maybe week 2, a little bit warmer and a little bit drier. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. So we're not out of the woods, not the best weather forecast. And for the southeast part of Kansas, certainly not the best. But overall, from the entire state, probably not the worst forecast either. Hope you have a great week. Take care.